Hey everybody, so I'm doing a really quick video here just to kind of let you guys know everything is still kind of progressing. We're still doing things, making progress here. So this week is just like last week, has mostly been working on Voltage and ICBM to get them updated. Here, I believe Thursday, I actually initialized the 112 branch of Voltage and have begun working. As you can tell down here, I've got some errors and stuff, and it's not compiling. Let me actually switch to the correct project here. So it's going to be a while before I get Voltage updated. I've got the API cleared out. I have to then go through pretty much a little bit of everything and fix it all up. I then have to get everything running. As getting the errors cleaned out is just kind of one step in the process of many. I've got to kind of do quite a bit of work here to get things going. That being said, I did take a pause to work on Volts Engine Handler and some of the bucket mods. What I'm going to start doing here is every Friday we're going to start doing on the stream, which is called Bug Fix Friday, is what I'm going to start calling it. So Fridays I'm going to be fixing any issues, polishing functionality, initializing new mods as needed, and everything else. So I did actually create a new mod. It's a plant bucket mod. I know I really shouldn't be making more mods considering how much time it's taking to already maintain what I have, but I wanted to play around with a cool concept here, so I'll go ahead and run this up and I'll show you what this concept is. So basically we ended up having a couple bugs on the ATC server while they were testing it. The first one was that if you right click with the newest version of Volts Engine Fluid Handler, the bucket would crash no matter what. This was an issue where an MPE check, so null pointer check, was not included to see if the tile you were clicking on was null or not, so that was my bad. It's fixed. Luckily that version was marked as alpha, so most people didn't get it downloaded. That's been fixed, it's been tested, a new beta version has been pushed out. Any dependency mods have been cleaned up. With that, not only was that issue fixed, there was a lot of recipe problems that were fixed as well with previous versions of the alpha. And I went through and I really polished up functionality for how the bucket handlers work. So most people don't know how the internal structure works for the bucket mod. So people go like, oh, it's just a bucket, Minecraft has this. The Minecraft bucket is stupidly simple. It's literally designed to carry lava and water, and that's it. You see other mods with buckets, that's because they've implemented their own bucket. Now, luckily, of course, Forge now finally has a system for buckets in it now, but it's still pretty simplistic. The Forge bucket, I think, uses metadata for its fluid IDs. Minecraft actually uses separate items for each one, and I think in 1.13 they're going to actually enforce that separate item logic. But mine is a single item that supports 32,000 different materials. And what I mean materials, we're not talking about fluids here, we're talking about materials. So this means you can have wood types, metal types, whatever. So if you have 30,000 of that, it then supports an infinite number of fluids as possible can be registered. Because it does MBT, it supports customized bucket capacities, behaviors, logic, and everything. And this is all done through this object class. It's a pretty sizable class, it's almost 1,000 lines now. It's got all your basic fluid handling capacities in here. It supports basic fluid container support, so any mod will work with this bucket. Thanks to some API changes as well, it's no longer as hard as it was. In 1.7 and 1.8, it was a little difficult to implement bucket support because you had the old classic version of the buckets, which was registered through a registry that you then could convert from an item to a fluid. And then they had an interface on top of that. So you had two systems, two avenues to kind of pull data. Now in the recent versions, they switched it over, so there's only one avenue to pull data from a bucket, which is a capability system right there. So that works really nice. I mean, we got debug info, tons of right-click behavior. There is all kinds of checks. And how all this works is that you have your normal bucket logic, which then reads to MBT. Then you have the ability to specify a handler per material, and then register handlers per blocks, per item, per interaction. So you can register handlers to go, okay, I have an entity, I wanted to do this behavior, I have a block, I want to do this behavior. If I'm right-clicking an item or dropping an item, it'll do this kind of behavior. This allows for things like bucket leaking, ability to catch the player on fire, consuming buckets, and the thing I wanted to do today, because out of the bug we discovered, that was the first one. The second one is when I right-click on a cow, the bucket disappeared. Now this is a bug that technically has been known for a while. It wasn't fixed because, well, it didn't always happen. and it didn't crash the game, so I never got around to fixing it. I have fixed it now. It works perfectly fine now, so you can right click with any bucket and you'll get milk back. But there's a small tweak that I introduced with this plant bucket mod, because I was like, you know what, this is kind of funny. The cow is eating your bucket, in other words. That's kind of the joke I was making. So of course, you see I have some of these grass buckets here. So let me get the game mode one, and we're going to pull out some grass buckets. Now, of course, I'm working on a ton of buckets. There's some streams I've done with this. There's a stone bucket mod that's going to be introduced here pretty soon. That will be done eventually. There'll be a metal bucket mod, and the obsidian bucket is technically done, but I wanted to get a better texture for it, but I'm going to go ahead and just release it. Our texture artist, Morton, he's not been around. I don't want to lay hate on him for not being around, because he has a real job and stuff. Unlike me, I'm doing a hobby that I pretend is my profession. The reality, this is still a hobby. I'd love to make it a profession, but until my income hits 1,000, we're not getting there. Anyways, so let's grab some of these, and I'm going to show you what can happen here. Now, I've set the chance to, I believe, 10% for what is going to a cow to eat the bucket. Oh, and we got it the first time. So it's what you'll see is the cow goes, hey, he thinks your bucket's food. Now this is a grass bucket, so of course he's going to think it's food. But you see, it does actually work. You can get stuff back. I think the chance is actually left at 50% on my version, but by default it's 10%. It's configurable. You can turn this behavior on and off if you will. I've also added code that now you can turn off every bucket handler in the mod or introduced by other mods. So if a mod adds bucket handling for, say, chicken behavior, and you didn't like that in your mod pack, you can turn it off. You can also disable entity interaction per bucket material as well. So say somebody added a global handler for all buckets, but you didn't want it to work on like 2 or 3 buckets, or you only wanted to work on 2 or 3 buckets. That is now a functionality feature of this. It works rather well. And of course these stack up pretty good. And they display really well. The language files are working amazingly on it. Tooltips are good. Interesting thing I found out is you can actually send translation keys from the server to the client, and they'll show up properly inside chat. So that's a thing I'm going to start working on. A lot of the commands are going to be translated over, so that way if you don't speak English and yet you're firing off chat commands, even though the chat commands are going to be in English themselves, you'll be able to use them. I may even look into the possibility of maybe writing some of the chat commands in different languages. That's not going to happen right now, though, so don't take my word on that and be like, oh, well, he said that's going to happen, therefore it's going to happen in a month or so. I don't know if that will happen, if it will, when it will happen, if it does happen. Other than all this, so before ICBM gets updated, I still got to do Volt's engine, and there's not a lot much else going on. So stream times did change. I did switch the stream times from 10 a.m. To 1 p.m. I found this time's a little bit better because my sleep schedule has a tendency to fluctuate. Getting up at 10 in the morning to do a stream wasn't quite functioning for me mentally. So I would get on the stream and I would be really groggy for like the first hour or two of the stream till it hit noon. And then if I didn't pick up energy by then, I ended up stopping the stream. And I realized if I was doing that, I wasn't really getting much out of the stream for you guys. So now I switched it to 1, where I'm a little bit more energetic, so it's a lot easier for me to code and do other things. And can get you guys more out better. So I can actually stream from 1 to 4, which is usually 3 hours. I don't always take it to 4. It depends on how many people show up, so just like it previously was. If I have a couple people showing up and I'm actually doing work and stuff, we'll take it all the way to 4. I do stop at 4, and a couple people have asked me why I do stop and don't keep streaming until I'm done with whatever I'm doing. Once it hits 4, I actually get all my TeamSpeak and I work on my game, which, by the way, I can show off here. I probably shouldn't be launching this many workspace systems at the same time. There we go, that's what it's for. But I figured I just want to go and show this off, and let me go ahead and close this down so I save a little bit of RAM. After all, 112 Minecraft still eats a decent amount of RAM. I'll probably finish up some of these bucket mods. I actually might finish them up this weekend, so the plan is the next 2 days I'm not going to really be working heavily on updating things. Oh, it logged me out. I can skip this, I think. There we go. So unfortunately, the project is just called Project. Hopefully it lets me actually log into this, because I don't really want to remember my login info. I don't really like the idea that Unity kind of makes you get out of this. But I'll go ahead and show this off. It's not much. I literally only spent about 2 hours on this the other day. I've kind of been toying around with stuff here and there. I'm still working on tutorials to kind of understand how games work. But I have a little box. I have a spawn point here. and my game is multiplayer. So those are some pretty big components to knock out the front. So this game is actually, it will do LAN, and it has a matchmaking server, so you can actually join your buddies. And it works. I mean, you can drive around. And if we actually split, let's split the view here. I think I have to get back out of this. There's a way to split views. So let me get over, I think I can double click this. Actually, I think I have to double click it here. There we go. So we get over here, I can then, when we hit play, we can actually see what I'm doing over here. It's a little easier to see from the third person. This is actually kind of the one reason I've been thinking about turning this into a third person game, is if you look at the left here, it does look pretty cool. Like, imagine like kind of doing this and fighting in combat. This would be kind of fun. The movement right now is pretty similar to how a car moves. This is just how I've got it programmed. The code is really simplistic. There's not even proper physics on the vehicle right now. It will collide with walls, of course, so if I hit this wall, it will actually impact, and it will stop moving. Of course, just like Minecraft, if I go too fast, I can still glitch through the wall. This is just something that happens to be a problem with all game engines. If you move faster than something they take, you can go through walls. So we have reduced the speed to fix that. There's no wheels on this yet, so that's the part where I was talking about physics. In order to get the physics proper, I actually need to make this handle gravity better and add wheels on it, so it actually will bounce on terrain. And of course, this tank is actually meant to have tracks. Doing a lot of tutorials trying to do tracks. Tracks are actually kind of complicated. They use essentially an array of pieces that then wrap around a curve around wheels, and then it's got a rigid type of body to it, so that way the tracks kind of gravity fall onto the wheels, and the wheels just kind of push the tracks around. It works really similar to how they work in kind of real life, except you can, of course, cheat it a little bit in a game by not having to rely on friction as much. Even though Unity does friction rather well, you actually can, I can actually take this surface here and I can put friction on it. I can put friction on the tank. I can set the tank's weight appropriately, its engine speed and everything else, and it will work. Of course, by the way, this is, when you look at the tank, this is kind of, you have to make everything in here, so people get the illusion that when you make Unity that you can download prefabs and stuff. You can, but I haven't downloaded prefabs. I actually am going to completely avoid that as well, because even though I found several prefabs you can purchase and download, they don't look quite good. So in this case, I've built this up myself. I made the tank actual model, so if we actually zoom in here, this model was made in Magic Voxel. I'm actually going to probably start using that program to make models for Minecraft, because that's kind of what it's really good at. It's really good at making these kind of blocky type of models. I made it really quick because I just needed a test model. As you can see, there's a spot where I'm going to put tracks on here eventually just to test with. We'll be making our proper models in Blender down the road, just to show and kind of prove what I'm talking about, is that we do have models from past games and stuff. If I can get up into my work folder here. So there's been quite a few games we've actually attempted to work on over the lifetime of our team and stuff. And we've got places with them. Let's see if I can actually find a couple of our tanks. Here's some crappy tanks made by Morton. I'm not dissing him on this one. He just made us some basic tanks once upon a time. I think these are all part of that same tank. Yeah, these are. So he kind of gave me this model, which is just tank parts. I mean, it works. I'm trying to actually look for, I think I remember where these actually are at. So let me bounce all the way back up to here. So there should actually be, as you can see, there's a couple games actually in here too. I've been working on quite a few. I don't remember where I actually put this at. 100 tank, there it is. And it's empty. Go figure. Maybe in here? I guess I misplaced it. But we have actual models we've made in the past. They look pretty good. Grogger makes models. Actually does a good job. Actually, I think I finally remember where they're at. So if you get back to Google Drive, I think they're sitting in our Minecraft request folder, because that's where I tell Grogger to always upload things. BuiltBroken, Minecraft, requests, user folder, Grogger. He's made us a couple turrets and stuff. A couple weapons. I'm definitely going to have to ask him where he kept those models at. I'll have to show them to you guys another time, but that's pretty much all we got. So that's been an update for now. I just wanted to get this out here so those who actually follow me on YouTube still know I'm there and doing okay. Speaking of which, also doing okay, I actually looked through all my ad revenue stuff. All my videos are doing fine on ad revs. The reason I'm not really just seeing a lot of ads is you get more ads the more viewers you get. So right now the view count's just so low, we're not getting anything. I don't really care about that. I never plan to get ad revenue off the videos anyways. I just turned it on for that extra few pennies and so to help support things like the website. But I'll see you guys later.